Yay.
I have started the YouTube stream as well. Oh, darn.
Yeah,
It feels a little sensitive to the true meaning of PDA, but it's whatever.
I've started the YouTube stream.
There's also a couple
that one's
spray.
empty.
I'm gonna just,
Who wants to pray?
Alright, Wesley.
He said, who wants to pray? Not it. I really need to bring my tripod in.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for Wesley support us. And we just ask that you would help us understand what Wesley's teaching today and help us to understand you better because of it. We ask this in your name, amen.
Yay.
Alright, fantastic. So we have a lot of reading, can't tell. So I'm going to start by reading Genesis 3. I'll read it once through just myself, and I'll have you guys, whoever wants to read, take on these as we get there. I've tried to foresee questions, and I will try to answer them as I go, but if you have a question, if something doesn't make sense, that's fine, just stop me. We can focus on something. Fantastic. So we're going to be in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Again, I'm reading out of the NASB, 95. Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Indeed, has God said, 'You shall not eat from any tree of the garden?' And the woman said to the serpent, 'From the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat. But from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat from it, or touch it, or you will die.' The serpent said to the woman, 'You surely will not die. For God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.' When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took from its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loin coverings. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Then the Lord God called out to the man and said to him, 'Where are you?' And he said, 'I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself.' And he said, 'Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree which I commanded you not to eat?' And the man said, 'The woman who you gave to be with me, she gave me from the tree, and I ate.' And the Lord God said to the woman, 'What is this you have done?' And the woman said, 'The serpent deceived me, and I ate.' The Lord God said to the serpent, 'Because you have done this, cursed are you more than all the cattle, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you will go, and dust you will eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel.' And to the woman he said, 'I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In your pain you will go, and you will bring forth children. Yet your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you.' Then to Adam he said, 'Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree about which I have commanded you, saying, You shall not eat from it, cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall grow for you, and you shall eat of the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread, till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken. For you are dust, and to dust you shall return.' Now the man called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. And the Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife, and clothed them. Then the Lord God said, 'Behold, the man has become like us, knowing good and evil. And now he might stretch out his hand, and take also from the tree of life, and eat, and live forever.' Therefore the Lord God sent him out of the Garden of Eden, to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So he drove the man out, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he stationed the cherubim, and the flaming sword which turned every direction to guard the way to the tree of life." That concludes Genesis chapter 3. Fantastic. All right. So that's Genesis chapter 3. That's what we're going to be working with today. That's the whole body of text that we shall be working with. So I want you guys to take out Blue Letter Bible and look at the word serpent and tell me what word it is. in
Tanin,
English?
isn't it?
Or like pronounce it the best you can. Just
It's
the Hebrew.
Tanin, isn't it?
Just-
Snack.
It is not Tanin.
Oh.
Interesting.
Is it, hang
I'll
on.
be back up to it.
Nahash.
Yes, it is. I don't know exactly how it's spelled, so I'll spell it this way: Nahash,
All right, yeah.
which is a little bit of a Hebrew wordplay because it sounds a little bit like the sound a snake makes.
Snack.
Nahash.
Snake.
All right. So Nahash is our serpent, correct?
Yeah.
Now, what I need you guys to understand, we're jumping into some cultural context here. I know it's fun. Okay, so we have 3 words in the Bible that all talk about the same thing in different ways. Like a little pyramid, you can look at it from different ways. So you have Nahash. Nahash, in this case, means serpent. Basically, every time you see Nahash, it refers to a serpent of some sort. You also have our word from Genesis 1, which was
Tanin.
Tanin, the singular. Tanin in Genesis 1 refers to a sea monster that God creates. Important that we remember that God creates a sea monster and places him in the depths. All right? There's a third word, Nate. I've heard you say it like 3 times. Starts with an L.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a few weeks ago. Leviathan.
oh.
Leviathan.
Leviathan. All right, so Leviathan.
Pronounced differently.
Yeah, it would be pronounced Leviathan, but
Ah.
in English we've actually kind
How do you spell all these?
of. Nahash, I spelled Nahwash. I don't know if that's exactly how it would be
Let me
written
look at
in
it.
a straight comparison, but how you pronounce it is how I'm writing
Does
it.
Leviathan say lions?
It's close.
Yeah, I put lions because there are 3 chaos creatures that you'll see a lot when you see these words. You'll see this image of a sea monster, you'll see serpents a lot, and you'll see lions a lot. Think David and the Lion's Den, think Garden of Eden, and sea monsters is kind of the catch-all for everything else. So, to give you guys where I found that, we're going to go to Isaiah 27, chapter verse 1. If anyone would like to read, you are more than welcome. Just let me know. If not, that's fine. I can read it. I'm at depth.
I'll read.
You'll read. Fantastic. Let me get there. Hold on.
Is it just verse 1?
I believe so. Let me double check. Isaiah, chapter number 27, verse 1. All right. Fantastic. Whenever you're ready.
In that day the Lord will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, with his fierce and great and mighty sword, even Leviathan, the twisted serpent. And he will kill the dragon who lives in the sea.
All right. Fantastic. Now, if you were reading this on the Blue Letter Bible, you will notice when you go to the interlinear for Isaiah 27, verse 1, we see all of these words used to talk about the same thing. So when I place them in this triangle, this is partially where I'm getting this from. That they see all of these things as 3 parts of the same idea, the same image of chaos. You see, hold on one second. In that day the Lord will punish Leviathan. Our Leviathan right here. The great and mighty Leviathan, the Nahash, the great serpent, fleeing from even Leviathan, the serpent, Nahash. And here we go. And he will kill the dragon,
Tanin.
Tanin, who lives in the sea. All right, so we see the Lord God taking command over all of these things, which makes sense because who created them?
God.
God. Exactly. Fantastic. So we're going to go now to Amos 9, verse 3. This is just supporting everything that I have just told you with the scriptures. Amos 9, verse 3. This is a vision of Amos for the context of the book. Go for it.
Though they hide on the summit of Carmel, I will search them out and take them from there. And though they conceal themselves from my sight on the floor of the sea, from there I will command the serpent, and it will bite them.
All right, fantastic. So in Amos 9, verse 3, we see that this is a vision from Amos who's talking about the wrath of God, going after those who have broken the covenant. And you see it the last little bit, that last little phrase that she read. I will command the Nahash. And it will bite them.
Oh, hi.
Jason!
Jason, yo.
And Brian. Welcome.
And Brian.
Oh, hi, Brian.
Hi.
There's
Yeah,
a
well, we've
bunch
seen
of
you more
dip
recently.
and a whole
That's
bunch of
fair.
snacks.
You missed
I
going
saw
down
him on
the
Saturday.
basement.
What's up, Jason?
How are you?
Do you want me to
I'm good.
point
How are you?
in the
Where?
basement?
Where?
Oh,
That is up to
On the
me.
table.
very
We're
good.
so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
Oh my God.
Ryan, you missed going down the basement.
Long time.
Oh, no, no, no.
We
Oh,
got
you in the
We
building.
got
Uh-uh.
4 or 5 days.
All right, so the reason I had us include Amos 9 verse 3 is because I don't want you to see this as God versus the chaos creatures. I don't want you to see them as two sides of the same thing because they're not equals. God created these. And while they frequently oppose and disrupt the tells us that God commands them. He use them at his will to, in the case of Amos 9, exact his justice on those who have broken covenant. And last one is Psalm 24, or Psalm, that's not true, 74. I can read numbers, love that for me. Psalm 74, we're going to go to verse 12. That should say 12 through 14, not 12 through 14.
I'll read.
All right, cool. Whenever you're ready.
Yet God is my king from of old, who works deeds of deliverance in the midst of the earth. You divided the sea by your strength. You broke the heads of the sea monsters in the water. And you crushed the heads of Leviathan. You gave him his food for the creatures of the wilderness.
All right. Now here we see God, taking control of the Leviathan again. This time he is creating order in the chaos, and who, in our imagery and the word that we have, embodies chaos. Our three little chaos creatures. When you think of, the root of all chaos, the root of all darkness for ancient civilizations, it was frequently large monsters. It was, your sea krakens, it was your leviathans, it was your big sea snakes that would come up and destroy ships.
So you're telling me they weren't wrong?
I'm not saying they're not wrong, I'm saying that they have a purpose. Here.
I mean, like people say, oh, they didn't have glasses and they didn't know what they were talking about, but they did know what they were talking about, and their ships did get sunk by big monsters.
I'm not saying they're real monsters, I'm saying in the way for us to view the world through this concept, we have big monsters. And we have, more importantly, we have God taking control of and commanding these animals, these embodiments of chaos when he chooses, and he also is bigger than them in order to crush the head of Leviathan and break the heads of the sea monsters. They are not God. They are not on the level of God. They are not enemies of God, because God can crush them, God can crush the heads, and God can command them. He is God. This isn't a God versus anybody. That's what I want you guys to see.
Enemy implies equal.
Indeed. They are not enemies. God has a purpose, and that's why God created them and put them in the sea. All right, so great, congratulations. We made it through one of this.
Hooray! Woo!
Fantastic. But I know there's a lot of questions about the serpent that happened in Genesis 3, so I wanted to start there. Fantastic. And now we keep on cruising. All right, fantastic. And the serpent was craftier than any beast of the field from which the Lord God had made. So I want us to think back. Does anybody have the drawing that we had of last week of how we envisioned Eden with the boxes?
I do.
You do. Fantastic. Okay. Eden is where?
Oh, in the center. Never mind. And then you have the holies of holies. And then the courtyard.
No, that's the temple.
My bad.
That's not what I said.
Yeah. Oh, you have trees in the center?
Trees are in the center, then the garden around that, and Eden, and then
Oh,
Darwin.
this is the other.
Okay, perfect. That's what I need. Yes. In the boxes that we have trees in the center. But for the sake of the phrase that we have, I'm going to use rings 2 and 3.
Okay.
So we have Eden here. This serpent is craftier than any beast of where? Of the field.
Not the street.
This implies that the serpent comes into the Garden of Eden to talk to Eve. he comes into the Garden of Eden to talk with Eve and do his deception work, which he is very crafty at. And we have their conversation. The woman said to the serpent, "From the fruit of the tree of the garden you may eat, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat from it or touch it, or you will die." And the serpent said to the woman, "You surely will not die. For God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took from its fruit and ate. And she gave also to her husband with her, and he ate. All right, that's the conversation that happens between this talking serpent and with Eve. Now, what I want you guys to ask yourself, what I'm going to ask you, the question I'm going to pose to you, why is getting wisdom wrong? God has explicitly said that he has created these people to rule over the land that he's created. So why would you not want the leaders to be wise?
Because they don't want them to be exactly like God is all-knowing. And you can't, I guess, be equal to God like God is greater than all things.
God is absolutely greater than all things. What I would push back on a little bit is God doesn't say that the tree of knowledge of good and evil will make you to the same level as God. All he says is that it makes them know what is good and what is evil. Because when they eat of it, they know that they're naked and they know that they should be ashamed of that. But God didn't create them that way. So why is discernment in this case wrong? Because if I'm to be led by somebody, I would want them to know more than me. I would want them to know what is good for us and what is bad for us. That makes a good leader, right?
I was thinking a couple things. One is, he would like for them to trust him. So it's like putting a boundary for a child. You want to protect them, but also you want them to be, you want to protect them. You want them to trust you and obey you. But I think also the bigger thing is, at least that I think, I could be wrong, is he knows that as soon as they do, they're going to be subject to the enemy forever.
I think you're spot on. And to provide a different context, what Hebrew authors love to do is they love to take the same problem and shape it a little differently and get you to look at it from a different angle. So now I'm going to take you guys to 1 Kings 3,